From South Carolina Public Radio, this is the South Carolina Lead. I'm your host, Gavin Jackson, and this episode was recorded on July 23rd, 2026 from NPR Studios in Washington. Yes, I'm still here. On this episode of The Lead, we continue our look at the life and legacy of the late Senator Lindsey Graham. We also look at the next steps for this Senate seat, including the upcoming special primary election on August 11th. Several people have already filed to run, with more expected, and we bring you everything you need to know and everything we know as of Thursday. And a programming note, we regret to inform you that we will not have any shows for you next week, as AT and Sean are on vacation, separately, not together, with their own families. It's summer, I was just on vacation, this is how it goes. We kind of hope that the news gods don't bless us like this, but it happens. But we will have full coverage of the late senator's services in Washington on Tuesday and on Wednesday on South Carolina Public Radio and online, and a full show on This Week in South Carolina Friday at 7:30 p.m. on SCETV. Again, this is another long episode and we're remote, so we're not going to have a wind down section, but we encourage you to please call 803-563-7169. That's our hotline for the wind down, so you can be on there and talk to us about any number of things that you've been doing this summer, your vacations, as well as maybe some memories or stories you have about the late senator. We'd love to hear them. 803-563-7169. I'm being more professional. This is my NPR voice, guys. NPR in studio voice versus NPR at home voice. There's so many different voices. Let's continue our look at the late Senator Lindsey Graham's life and legacy following his death on July 11th at age 71. Graham was the second highest ranking Republican on the Senate Judiciary Committee, and he also served as its chairman at one time. One of his big accomplishments and goals was getting federal judges confirmed and through the confirmation process, especially for judges appointed by Republican presidents. But in his spirit of compromise, he also did the same for those appointed by Democrats, especially for those on the South Carolina federal bench. Remember, think back to that shortlist to replace Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer back in 2022. Graham and others were pushing then-President Joe Biden to appoint South Carolina federal judge J. Michelle Childs to the spot. But Biden went with Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson instead, and while Graham had a history of supporting qualified candidates to the court despite who appointed them, he broke with that tradition over concerns he had on some of Jackson's previous sentences. But Biden did appoint Childs to the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit in 2022, that July, and that court is a proving ground for future Supreme Court justices, including Brett Kavanaugh. In fact, one of Graham's most notable performances came during the confirmation hearing for Kavanaugh in October 2018. Before his confirmation hearings, Kavanaugh was accused by several women of sexual assault and misconduct in the 1980s, though the reports were not corroborated by eyewitnesses, and Kavanaugh denied them. Graham was as fiery as he had ever been during that hearing.
Are you aware that at 9:23, on the night of July the 9th, the day you were nominated to the Supreme Court by President Trump, Senator Schumer said, 23 minutes after your nomination, "I will oppose Judge Kavanaugh's nomination with everything I have. I have a bipartisan, and I hope a bipartisan majority will do the same. The stakes are simply too high for anything less." Well, if you weren't aware of it, you are now. Did you meet with Senator Dianne Feinstein on August 20th?
I did meet with Senator Feinstein.
Did you know that her staff had already recommended a lawyer to Dr. Ford?
I did not know that.
Did you know that her and her staff had this allegations for over 20 days?
I did not know that at the time.
If you wanted an FBI investigation, you could have come to us. What you want to do is destroy this guy's life, hold this seat open, and hope you win in 2020. You've said that, not me. You've got nothing to apologize for. When you see Sotomayor and Kagan, tell them that Lindsey said hello, because I voted for them. I would never do to them what you've done to this guy. This is the most unethical sham since I've been in politics. And if you really wanted to know the truth, you sure as hell wouldn't have done what you've done to this guy.
Kavanaugh narrowly made it out of committee and was narrowly confirmed by the Senate 50-48. Another major move was the appointment of Amy Coney Barrett, who was a U.S. Court of Appeals judge for the 7th Circuit before President Trump appointed her to fill the seat held by the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg in 2020. Graham, who was then the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, ran those confirmation hearings with just weeks to go before the November 2020 election, a change in precedent. Barrett was confirmed by the Senate on October 26, 2020 by a vote of 52 to 48, and Graham himself was in the middle of a very busy re-election campaign, facing off against former state Democratic Party Chairman Jamie Harrison. Graham's work on the courts and getting folks appointed was one of his biggest selling points on the trail.
My opponent, folks, cheered on the destruction of Kavanaugh. He said the main reason he's running against me is because of the way I behaved in Kavanaugh. The main reason I'm going to win is because of the way I behaved in Kavanaugh.
Graham was also joined by Congressman Ralph Norman at one of his stops.
What do you say about him? I mean, the man, you saw what he did with Brett Kavanaugh. The one senator that stood up and saved this country was Senator Graham. You know, it wasn't what he said, it's the emotion and how he said it that was so great. The 230 judges that Tommy and Glenn mentioned. That doesn't happen by chance. Lindsey Graham made that happen.
Yes.
And recently, Amy Coney Barrett, was she not something else?
Great American.
As chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Lindsey, you made it happen, and the nation in South Carolina owes you a debt of gratitude. Now, something else you may not know, I was with Senator Graham on an economic development trip to Germany back in 2019. This man went from meeting to meeting, starting at 7 o'clock, to get through till late at night. He was heading most of the committees. Everybody wanted to see Lindsey Graham. But he is out there working hard to bring economic development to South Carolina and to America. And the respect that this man has is second to none.
At another stop, this time in Spartanburg, Graham was joined by Governor McMaster and First Lady Peggy McMaster. Here's the governor.
Like Muhammad Ali said, the little boy asked him one time, said, "Champ, didn't you get knocked down one time by George Foreman?" He said, "Son, I ain't never down. I'm either up or getting up." Well, that's the way we are. We're up and we're getting up higher. But in order to do that, we have to have people like Lindsey Graham in the Senate. Now, this seniority and the influence doesn't just come automatically. It ain't based on good looks or anything. People respect Lindsey because they know that he was a lawyer, he was a prosecutor, 33 years in the military, in the Air Force, colonel, then in the House of Representatives, in Congress, and now in the Senate. When he talks, people know that he knows what he's talking about. And his life story is one that's phenomenal. It's a true American story. Everybody can't say that. Everybody can't say they have that insight and experience, least of all Lindsey's opponent.
And again, despite that race and despite the hundreds of millions of dollars flowing into it, Graham defeated Harrison by a solid 10-point margin. So, a bit of a preview of what folks were expecting this November. And McMaster and Graham had a very close relationship, working alongside each other for decades in different capacities. And just last fall, I was with both of them in Beaufort, where McMaster was receiving an award from the county party for his years of service. Graham was there to introduce him. The dinner was almost a bit of a stand-up routine for Graham, who he himself was campaigning in hopes of winning the nomination in June, which he did, and his 5th term this November.
North Carolina is going to be the most expensive race in the country. We're stuck in the middle. Whatever they're drinking, we don't want. Now, I think why we're doing so well is we sort of have an organized view of what's good for the people, and we deliver, and they appreciate it. Tom, I'll say something about you. You're a good, solid conservative, but it's good to care about the environment. You know, we're stewards of God's creation, and I appreciate what you do. We want to pass that on to the next generation. Y'all live like you've been dealt a good hand down here. Let's pass it on. You can be prosperous and protect the environment. You got to do both, actually. So I just want to thank this delegation for saying something other people can't say sometimes. Yes, some people can only say no. Sometimes you have to say yes to move forward. And y'all understand governing is what you were elected to do. Fighting is part of governing, but also governing is part of governing. And I am just very proud to be part of the team. Every time I turn around, y'all are asking for something, and it usually makes sense. So I'm the only earmarker left other than Jim Clyburn, and he's probably not going to help you too much down here. But I just want to let you know that Donald Trump's the toughest man I've ever met in my entire life. I've never seen anybody who could take so much crap and stay focused on his job. They tried to destroy him at the time he came down the escalator, and he beat them all. And Henry was on the ground floor of all this. Him and Peggy. I came a little late, but I got there. And when I got there big time. People say, what happened with you and Trump? I found common ground with a man. I like him and he likes him. So, we're playing golf Saturday and Sunday. We're doing a golf tournament. We're going to share the money. He gets most of it. And so I hope it doesn't cost $1,000 for me to keep talking. Okay, all right. So, but anyway, I just want to let you know I'm going to do everything I can to help him be the most successful president since Ronald Reagan.
Now, after Graham won his third term in 2014, there was talk about him running for president, following the footsteps of his mentor, Arizona Senator John McCain. On June 1st, 2015, Graham made his presidential ambitions official with his campaign launch in his hometown of Central. Graham was introduced by his sister Darlene and gave a wide-ranging 20-minute-long speech that touched again on his concerns over the Middle East and Iran.
Simply put, radical Islam is running wild. They have more safe havens, more money, more capability, and more weapons to strike our homeland than any time since 9/11. They are large, they are rich, they're entrenched. As president, I will make them small, poor, and on the run. I'm afraid some Americans have grown tired of fighting them. I have some bad news to share with you. The radical Islamists are not tired of fighting you. In partnership with others, we must take the fight to them, building lines of defenses over there so they can't come here, building up and supporting regional forces to go after their safe havens that could be used to attack our homeland. The world is exploding in terror and violence, but the biggest threat of all is the nuclear ambitions of the radical Islamists who control Iran. Ladies and gentlemen, there are no moderates in Iran running their government. If the United States isn't firm in our intention to deny them such weapons, Iran will trigger a nuclear arms race in the least stable region on earth, making it more likely the people who aspire to genocide will have the most effective means to commit it. Our close ally, Israel, is at risk as a result of Obama's failed leadership. With Israel, we share values, we share democracy, and our friendship is unbreakable. To our friends in Israel, I will never abandon you.
However, Graham never got above 1% in polling and only raised around $5.2 million. He failed to gain traction and dropped out in December 2015, and in January 2016 endorsed Florida Governor Jeb Bush, ! And then later, Texas Senator Ted Cruz. But no one was getting past billionaire businessman Donald Trump in 2015 or in the 2016 presidential primary or that general election. Graham did not vote for him, writing in a third-party candidate that November instead. Meanwhile, then Lieutenant Governor Henry McMaster became the first statewide elected official to endorse Trump in 2016, ahead of the South Carolina primary, which Trump won. McMaster's bet paid off, and as a thank you for his support, Trump nominated then Governor Nikki Haley to serve as his ambassador to the United Nations. A huge move for her and a way to get McMaster into the governor's office, which was a lifelong goal of his. Graham helped prepare Haley, the foreign policy novice, to get through the Senate confirmation process, and she was confirmed in January 2017 by a vote of 96-4. This was the time that some would say Lindsey started changing, or rather adapting to the current political environment and the future of his party. He soon realized that he had a partner in Trump, someone who would listen to his worldview and at times act on it. That relationship was challenged after the January 6, 2021 insurrection attempt at the U.S. Capitol. Graham gave these remarks the day after the rioters were finally cleared from the building and the electoral votes were certified.
I've become close to the president personally. I think his president has been consequential from a conservative point of view. It has been an amazing 4 years in terms of judges, securing the border, a vaccine in record time, deregulating the economy, cutting taxes, historic Mideast peace agreements, the destruction of the caliphate, on and on and on, was tarnished by yesterday. When it comes to accountability, the president needs to understand that his actions were the problem, not the solution. That the rally yesterday was unseemly, it got out of hand, and a good friend of mine, Rudy Giuliani, did not help. I said on the floor of the Senate, I cast my vote accordingly, that Joe Biden is the legitimate president-elect of the United States. Are there irregularities in this election? Yes, I'm sure there are. Have they been overblown? Absolutely. There's been a constant effort by people from the president's legal team to provide misinformation, to distort the facts, to make accusations that cannot be proven. That needs to stop.
Despite those words, Graham remained on the Trump team and was there at the South Carolina State House in January 2023, along with other members of the delegation, the governor and lieutenant governor, and President Trump. Here was his tune then.
Thank you. Well, he did it once, he can do it again. Isn't that why we're here? So, Mr. President, I started my political career right there, and I got my first paycheck, and I said, I got to get out of here. To the State House people, you're not doing it for the money. There's one thing I want to talk to you about. How many times have you heard, we like Trump policies, but we want somebody new? There are no Trump policies without Donald Trump. I was there. You know why $400 billion was given by NATO nations? Because he asked and they were afraid to say no. Every president since I've been up there has asked NATO to give more money, but they gave more money when he asked. People talk about China. You did something about China. They finally paid. Everybody's been talking about China. You made them pay. You know why Mexico said yes to you? Because you scared the hell out of them by taking on China. You know why the Abraham Accords came about? It's because you convinced the Arabs and the Israelis you were strong and you're reliable. You killed the terrorist that needed to be killed. You convinced the Arabs to work with the Israelis, and the world is a better place. We live in a dangerous world right now. The good news for the Republican Party, there are many talented people for years to come, but there is only one Donald Trump. And I say this sincerely. You can talk about his policies, but you could not do what he did.
He was also there on that sweltering July 1st, 2023 day in downtown Pickens, which was packed with tens of thousands of folks. Yes, I was there roasting as well. But you'll remember that he took the stage after Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette, and unlike her reception, Graham was subjected to several minutes of boos.
Thank y'all. Welcome to Pickens. Thank y'all for coming. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank y'all. Thank you all for coming. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a bunch. Well, you want to find something in common? All right. Thank y'all. Thank you all very much. Welcome to Pickens County. A little bit about this county. Just calm down for a second. I think you'll like this. Pickens County has more Medal of Honor winners per capita than any place in the nation. I was born in this county. I live 15 miles down the road. This is a place where people pay the taxes, fight the wars, and tell you what they believe. How many of you believe that Donald Trump was a great president? So let me tell you a little bit about me and President Trump. What happened? I found common ground with President Trump. It took a while to get there, folks. But let me tell you what happened. I come to like President Trump, and he likes himself, and we got that in common. And I'm going to help him become President of the United States. Let me tell you why I want to help President Trump. I was on the front row of his presidency, and I'd never seen anybody this tough for America.
Luckily, Trump came out later and tried to smooth things over for Graham, someone he has endorsed and backed in the past and in this campaign as well. But listen to him back there in 2023.
And again, Senator Lindsey Graham, who is really I'm going to have to work. I'm going to have to work on these people. I'm going to have to. All right. He's there. He's there when you need him. He's there when you need him. I'm going to get him straightened up. Do you mind if I come here and campaign a little bit for you? I'll tell you what. He was one of my earliest endorsements right from the go, and I appreciate it very much.
Now, again, going forward in 2024, Graham became one of Trump's loudest cheerleaders and was on the Sunday morning shows nearly every week, trying to present a more coherent message of Trump's policies and worldviews in a disciplined way compared to the messenger. Once Trump got back in the White House, Graham's influence continued to grow, as did his access to the president, whether on the golf green, regular phone calls, Air Force One, or in the Oval Office itself. Graham no doubt was at the peak of his power and influence, and he said as much when I sat down with him during our 30-minute interview last October during the government shutdown. All of our House members were unavailable, and so was Senator Tim Scott, but Graham, he gave us 30 minutes, saving our show and our trip.
People give you a hard time for doing so much international. You're so involved in international affairs. What do you say to those critics back home who say he doesn't focus enough on South Carolina?
I focus a lot on South Carolina. I would say, remember 9/11. When you take your eye off the ball, you pay a price. If we could go back in time, what would we have done differently before 9/11? We'd paid more attention to the buildup of the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. If you think Al-Qaeda is done with us, you're not living in the real world. If you think ISIS won't come back if they get here, you're not living in a real world. So here's what I would tell anybody. My job is to take care of South Carolina's interest in Washington, but also to take care of the nation's interest. As long as I'm a United States Senator, we're going to keep the war over there the best we can so it doesn't come here again. We're going to hit them before they hit us. They're homicidal maniacs, so they're not going to stop fighting you because you're tired of fighting them. The good news is we're making partnerships over there where we have to do less of the fighting. We haven't lost one soldier in Ukraine. We're helping Ukraine. When it comes to the Mideast, there's a new Mideast emerging where they're willing to do the fighting with our help. So I would say this, if you want America to be safe, make sure Al-Qaeda and ISIS never get a chemical or a nuclear device that could attack our country. And the best way to do that is disrupt them over there before they get here. Yeah, I do a lot of things. I help expand the Port of Charleston. I was the budget chairman that passed the one big beautiful bill with the tax cuts and money for the military and the border. But one thing I'm proud of, and I'll never back off on, is understanding the threats of the world to make sure they don't come back to our shores. As long as I'm your senator, I'm going to spend some time watching them over there to protect us here.
And that being said, and wrapping up here, you're 70 years old, you're running for your 5th term. What motivates you? You kind of just put a button on it right there, but what's driving you to keep running, to keep serving?
I think I'm better at my job today than I've ever been.
I talked to BB all weekend about what does he need to get this deal done. I've become a very close friend of the President of the United States. We're going to play golf this weekend. There's very few people in the world I don't know that matter to us that I can't pick up a phone call and talk to. When it comes to home, I was the budget chairman. I was able to help get the bill through the Senate because I know how the Senate works. When there's a problem at home, I think I'm in good position to fix it. When we have a problem at the Port of Charleston, I can work with Democrats to help us. I've tried to reach across the aisle to solve problems. Kavanaugh, think I had a big impact on getting us a conservative Supreme Court. I think I'm better at my job today than I've ever been. I feel fine, but there'll come a day when my time is up. And I'll tell you right now, as far as I'm concerned, I'm more able to do my job. I'm better at it than any time since I've been in the job because I've worked hard to learn what works and what doesn't. And I like it. I like it more today. I like being able to shape the future of our state and our country. And if people will honor me with 6 more years, I'll make sure I don't let them down.
A heart problem like what befell his father at age 68 genetically term limited him, as he said would happen. Graham himself died 2 days after turning 71 on July 11th from an aorta tear. Now, the late-night death set off a frenzy in Washington and Columbia. For example, just looking at the phone log for Governor Henry McMaster's schedule on that Sunday, we see more than 20 calls starting at 12:02 a.m., and that was a call with a senior staff member of the South Carolina congressional delegation. At 12:23 a.m., the governor spoke with Darlene Graham. He went on to speak with other folks, including the president at 10:17 a.m., and later in the day, he spoke with a member of the Senate leadership. So, as we know, he announced in a press conference on Monday, July 13th, that Darlene Graham would be filling the vacancy created by the senator's passing. So she's filling the remainder of this term that runs through January. So let's talk about who is running. Familiar faces for this special primary that's going to be happening on August 11th include someone that you've heard about statewide as well, 5th District Congressman Ralph Norman, who came in third in the gubernatorial primary with 17% support in that 6-person field. Norman had been campaigning statewide since last summer and was up on TV with ads. His name recognition is high. He's incredibly popular among the activist base, which will help drive the turnout, which is expected to be super low because it's August. It's a special election. It's very specific, and he has his own personal wealth to help jumpstart this very short campaign. All he needs to do is change some logos around, retool some talking points, and shake and bake. There you go. You get a statewide campaign. Norman made his announcement on Fox News over the weekend, and Congresswoman Nancy Mace, former Senator Jim DeMint, and several sheriffs have endorsed Norman already. Also in this race, 7th District Congressman Russell Fry, who defeated incumbent Congressman Tom Rice outright in a 7-person 2022 primary. Fry is a resident of Surfside Beach, and he served in the State House from 2015 through 2022 when he defeated or fried the rice when it came to Rice in his vote to impeach President Donald Trump over the January 6, 2021 Capitol riots. Darlene Graham is running as well. She was just appointed to the post to fill the unexpired term of her brother, which runs through early January, like we said, and she sat down with Fox News' Sean Hannity on Monday evening to make her announcement. She's also been urged to run by President Trump. President Trump has also endorsed Darlene Graham, but as we know about endorsements in this state, doesn't necessarily mean it's a slam dunk. Look at what happened to Pam Evett in the gubernatorial primary, and a lot of other Republicans are saying the same thing. We will see how it plays out in the coming days. Former governor and congressman Mark Sanford announced Thursday that he was also jumping in this race. Sanford previously ran for his old 1st congressional district seat this year, but ended his campaign after about a month. Despite that, his name was still on the ballot, and he came in 4th in that very crowded field. Now, he says, he could no longer stay on the sidelines while the national debt, which is now more than $39 trillion, threatens to upend the country's finances and its future. In a press release, Sanford said, "I'm a dad and a grandfather. I'm running for Senate because I believe our nation is at a financial tipping point. We can't keep spending money we don't have and expect good things to happen. And yet, we're on pace to add roughly $1 trillion to the national debt over the next 100 days. He went on to talk about that. Now, Sanford got to Congress the same time as Graham and served from 1995 to 2001, and then ran for governor in 2002 and served through 2011. Mark Lynch, who challenged Graham along with 4 other Republicans who lost when Graham secured 57% of the vote in June, is also jumping back in the race. Lynch secured 29% of the vote, but not enough to get Graham into a runoff, something he avoided his entire career. Other folks running that have filed include Duke Buckner, Mark McBride, Clark Nielsen, and Samuel Shepard. They have all filed and cut the $10,440 check to get on the ballot. Whoever becomes the nominee will face off against Democrat Dr. Annie Andrews, Constitution Party candidate Mark Hackett, and Libertarian Casey Whitener in November. And that's the pod for us today. Again, we'll be bringing you coverage from the services on Tuesday and Wednesday from Washington and Columbia, and we'll have that on South Carolina Public Radio, southcarolinapublicradio.org, and on youtube.com/@SCETV News and SCETV.org, as well as over the air on SCETV and South Carolina Public Radio. We're going to have you covered. We're going to have that live coverage of the Wednesday service in Columbia, so be sure to tune in. We'll be carrying that live on all of our platforms. And we'll have more for you from that the following week when we get everyone back in house, and we'll be off to the races for this special primary election to fulfill the Republican nomination for the Senate that was left vacant by the late Senator Lindsey Graham. So stay tuned. We have a lot to cover over the coming weeks. And again, thank you for listening to the pod. You can always show us your appreciation by leaving us a review at Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast from, or a voicemail at 803-563-7169. I promise we'll have a wind-down section. We can talk about my trip to Europe. We have so much more to talk about. There's so much going on. You can also stay up to date with the latest news on SCETV.org and SouthCarolinaPublicRadio.org, and don't forget to support your local newspapers. The South Carolina Lead is a production of South Carolina Public Radio. Our producer is A.T. Shire. Amy Crouch is our supervising producer. Sean Birch is our executive producer. Sydney Wilcox is our intern. This podcast is produced with support from PRX and is made possible in part by a grant from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, as well as listener contributions to the ETV Endowment of South Carolina. For the South Carolina Lead, I'm Gavin Jackson. Be well, South Carolina.
I have 2 monitors, bro.
Wow, that's like luxury. I only have one monitor here, so I feel kind of like an idiot. Kind of feel stupid.
I'm stupid that I even say something like that. I don't know.